Fidel Castro. Everyone knows him, right? Well, if you don't, it's this guy right here, in the glasses. The famous Prime Minister of Cuba, or the main antagonist of the Cuban Missile Crisis, is nothing we haven't heard before. But what we actually haven't heard before is a man's complete love obsessions. I'm not talking about Cuba. It could be communism, but that's not it. That's right, I'm talking about his ultimate love for dairy. The man was known to eat several scoops of ice cream after a full 3-course meal. And by several, I mean up to the count of 18. I mean, the man would just gobble down ice cream like Usain Bolt and his chicken nuggets during the 2012 Olympic Games. I'm gonna be honest, anything a derivative of dairy, the absolute mad lab would love. From milk to cheese to almond milk. Nah, bro, I'm just joking. Almond milk isn't dairy, but it's also its own special category, so... Okay, back on track. Here's an informational chart on varying degrees of milk love to better comprehend Castro's obsession. As you can see, it ranges from dairy farmer to Dairy Queen executive, and the very top is Fidel Castro. Like any child, Fidel Castro had many dreams, but in my opinion, one of his best was to bulk up the Cuban dairy industry just like a 16-year-old boy discovering protein shakes in Vasa Gym for the first time. There was only one way though, and that was to breed a supercow capable of producing enough milk to completely wipe out any other competing nations. Now, to better understand Castro's supercow, we must first look at this in-depth report of the cow industry in Cuba. And if you can see that number, that's not really what you want when you're a man on a mission. On top of that issue, Cuba had 2 native cow species, Lorenas and Zebus. These 2 types of cows had an extremely high tolerance to heat, which is nice when the summer temperatures could get up to a high of 110 degrees. The only downside was they're mainly used for beef and not dairy production. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's the difference? Well, a slightly less smaller hump. That's it. To solve this issue, Castro decided to import Holsteins, basically the king of milk in the dairy industry. But the dry and hot seasons would immediately cause issues for the cows. In the first couple of weeks, around 3,000 Holsteins died. And just like that, Castro was back to the drawing board. And what he came up with was by far his most incredible idea yet. His plan was to crossbreed a Holstein with a Zebu. This way, the super cow could withstand the high heat and produce record-breaking amounts of milk. Well, theoretically at least. Castro's attempts were often caught lacking and failed miserably. It got to a point that Soviet subsidies were brought in to help progress the Cuban supercow project. And by golly, it worked. The great cow, Uble Blanca, or the White Udder, was born in 1972. She became the staple of the Cuban agricultural industry boom, to a point where there are daily updates of her milk production and health in the Cuban national newspaper. At one point in her life, Uble Blanca is the world record for the most amount of pounds of milk produced in a single day, which came out to be 109.5 liters or 241 pounds. Though Uble Blanca was quite an achievement, the supercow program was shut down due to the very little success rate of these supercows. Uble Blanca died in 1985 at the old age of 13, which actually isn't that old compared to the 20-year-old life expectancy today, but whatever, dude. After her death, Castro even erected a marble statue so she could live on until the end of time. In the end, there are 2 things that are certain in this life. Fidel Castro really liked dairy, and Uble Blanca died a true hero.